Hey, it's Michael Gougis with Road Racing World and Motorcycle Technology, and we're here on the southern coast of Spain near Alicante for the global launch of Triumph's new Daytona 660 sport bike. We have spent the day riding around on roads that look like roller coasters to sample Triumph's new entry into the middleweight sport bike market. Now notice I say sport bike and not super sports bike. This is not a super sport. This bike is very much a sheep in wolf's clothing. It absolutely looks the part of a sport bike, but it has been designed to be easy to ride, to work in a street environment, and to be something that's practical and fun to use on a regular basis. So Triumph has done a number of things to make the bike meet that design goal, if you will. We're going to talk a little bit about the motor, we're going to talk a little bit about the chassis and the suspension, and especially we're going to talk about the riding position. So let's actually start there. The bike has clip-ons, but they are located slightly above the triple clamp. It has rear sets, but they are not extremely high. The idea was to have a riding position that split the difference between a standard or one of the hyper nakeds that's so popular nowadays and a full-on sport bike. Having put on 158 kilometers, that's a little bit more than 100 miles, the comfort level for that length of ride was fantastic, and honestly it could have gone a lot further. The seat is really nice too. It's broad, it's supportive, although it's narrow at the front, and the whole physical experience of riding the bike was very comfortable. Not only was it comfortable though, it felt natural and controllable for a guy who loves to ride sport bikes when it was time to pitch it into a corner. It didn't feel like you were sitting upright or anything like that. It felt more like the riding position that would have made sense on a racetrack. So even though it's not a race bike, it still gives you the sensation of control and, well, control is the word I'm looking for. Why am I trying to complicate this? It gives you the sense of control that you're looking for when you're going sport riding. Now, critical to any sport riding experience is a bike that's got a halfway decent motor. This is the 660 triple that Triumph first introduced in the Triumph Trident. It is not the same motor by any stretch of the imagination. It has triple throttle bodies, it has a redesigned airbox, it has a new exhaust system and a new exhaust cam. So the bike breathes a lot better. It makes significantly more horsepower than the Trident, and it revs a lot higher. Redline is more than 12,000 RPM. On the road, it has a lot of torque down low. I rode through a lot of really tight hairpins in second gear, sometimes in third gear if there wasn't time to downshift, and it pulled out of the corners just fine. There was never that sense of, oh, this is going to stall or I'm going to, have any kind of experience like that. Having said all of that, it's still well worth it to spin the thing all the way to redline. It starts to make that unique triple exhaust and intake noise. There's power to be had in the upper reaches of the RPM range, and it's a lot of fun to take a bike and really, really wring its freaking little neck. That's what sport riding is all about. Triumph has redesigned the chassis on this one to accommodate the triple throttle bodies and the new airbox. So the chassis is different while the swing arm remains the same as that on the Trident. The forks are new. They are Showa big piston forks with zero adjustment, and you have a single rear shock with preload only adjustments. Now, why would you put that low a spec of suspension on a sport bike? Because remember, this is not a race bike. This is designed to be ridden on the road. And if you ride it within those parameters at any length or at any kind of sane street speeds, it works just fine. The only adjustment I made was to the preload. I added some preload, and I spent, well, let's just say that I rode hard enough to put my knee down a number of times. It's not a super sport. If that's the experience that you're looking for and you really want this bike, Triumph is indeed developing a performance package designed for the racetrack. You can buy an aftermarket shock. You can buy a cartridge kit for the front fork and all of that. But the buyer of this bike, usually, they're not going to be looking for that experience. They want a bike that absolutely looks the part of a sport bike, and this thing absolutely does. They want a bike that's comfortable to ride. They want a bike that handles well in the corners, and I gotta tell you, the chassis is stiff, the forks are super stiff, and once it's leaned over, it's nothing but fun. You also want value. You also want something that's reliable. Triumph offers a 2-year warranty on it. They've designed it so that the service intervals, I can do that, are far apart. A lot of the maintenance on this bike is designed to be easy for the person at home to do. And the value on it, it's hard to beat. This bike, when it arrives in US dealerships in April, will retail for $91.95. And that is a remarkable value for this much motorcycle. I had a fantastic day riding this bike, and I look forward to doing a long-term test on it. Are you listening, Triumph? I'm Michael Gougis with Road Racing World and Motorcycle Technology. Thanks for listening.